keeping the government open and bringing home the bacon, all by spending your bacon. Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. Congress passing a $1.1 trillion spending bill to keep D.C. funded. And it's chock full of goodies for things like clean cook stoves, Guam, the Virgin Islands, and salmon. That's just to name a few. So it's all the non-essential spending really necessary to keep the federal government running. Here we are, the Bulls and Bears this week. Gary B. Smith, Tracy Burns, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Sasha Burns. Welcome to everybody. John, is this the kind of spending why we're in the mess we're in?
Yes, absolutely. Look, this is how politics are done. And since 1980, debt has just taken off, except for a few years under Bill Clinton's reign. And since 2008, we've gone from $9 trillion to $17 trillion. There's $15 million in here to study catfish for the USDA, despite the fact that the FDA already does it. These are how bills get passed. If I want something done, I will tell you, give me $30 million to study something. I will give you $30 million for your favorite college. In place, we own China $1.3 trillion. If we have to defend the Sea of Japan against China, we'll have to borrow money from China to defend it against China itself. This is insane.
Yeah, I think the Chinese have 8% of the debt right now. Jonas, but you're not too worried about this spending bill. You don't think it's all that bad?
No, in fact, first of all, it's all essential because it's there to get it passed. That's why it was passed so smoothly. It's essential spending to get all the congressmen on both sides to vote for it, which is what they did very smoothly this time. What will be worse is them not meeting in the middle and having to shut down. And as far as the numbers, okay, yeah, they throwing a lot of money away, but you're talking about taking discretionary spending back to the previous administration. I don't know if we've ever done that before. Like, that is a very good feat and is putting us on a positive direction. Now, it's not perfect. We're still running deficits, but this is about as good as it's going to get out of this current situation. I think we should be glad.
Okay, Gary B., as good as it gets?
Well, I think Jonas misstates it a little bit when he says it's essential. It's essential because it's the grease, I suppose, as John alludes to, that makes politics work. Here's the problem. You know, the amount that we're spending versus what we're taking in is not insubstantial. It's $1 trillion deficit just in this year alone, in this fiscal year. And it's mounting, as John alludes to, you know, right up front. So the problem is we have this as part of how everything works. You want to get elected, you got to do favors, etc. The only solution can be if there is a balanced budget amendment. Not only a balanced budget, because that will give the left the opportunity to continue to raise taxes, but a balanced budget amendment in there that somehow caps the overall taxes on the American public. That's the way to get things done. So instead of catfish farming or whatever John said it was, we can keep that money ourselves and spend it as we wish.
Well, keep dreaming, Gary. Sasha, this did, however, avert a government shutdown. Is there something good to that?
Well, absolutely. And I'm with Jonas on the kind of as good as it's going to get. Look, the government shutdown, which, first of all, is an asinine way to run the country. Secondly, it cost billions of dollars. So we're looking at these numbers. Yeah, there is some waste in there. There always is. But it has nothing compared to the amount that the government shutdown cost. And this is the first time that they've actually worked together to pass a budget, which, you know, in omnibus in the old days, we used to say this was the worst way to do it because all this stuff gets tossed in there. But now, compared to government shutdown, compared to careening from one crisis to another, this is really good policy.
I don't know, Tracy, aren't we careening somewhere?
Well, I think what's asinine is the process, Brenda. I mean, we need, first of all, term limits because everyone is just buying their next vote. And if they get, someone's going to get all the salmon farmers now to vote for them because we got all this money to study them. It's so ridiculous and stupid, and it's got so out of hand. And the fact that this is as good as it gets is a pathetic statement for the United States of America right now. This is so bad on so many levels. And again, wake up. China owns the majority of our debt right now. That is just ugly.
Okay, Jonas, she's talking right to you.
Mm-hmm.
We own the majority of our debt through our own various bond purchases, Social Security, whatever. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal that the Chinese own that much of our debt. If anything, it puts us has us give us a little power in the negotiating equation with them. We're their biggest borrower. It's like borrowing a lot from a bank and then trying to renegotiate your mortgage puts you in a better position than having a small loan with the bank. I do think that it's as good as it gets. It's less arbitrary than what we saw with those automatic cuts that kicked in. It was nice that it cut stuff, but it was kind of across the board in a really bad way. This is an improvement again. Is it perfect? No, but it's an improvement on the cuts we already had.
But John, just a minute. Government borrowing, as long as we keep borrowing, we can keep spending. Isn't that right?
Yes, absolutely. Look, I understand what Jonas and Sasha are trying to say, and I agree with their point in general, but we're trying to find the tallest midget or the bravest Frenchman here. We're saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay the fact that they're stealing money. Whether you call it pork barrel, whether you call it earmarks, they're stealing money from the American people. Is that better than a government shutdown? Yes. Run the thieves out of the country. That's what we need. We don't have an option here. I understand that. We are forecast to have a $1 trillion deficit by the President Obama's administration's own budget office to the year 2023. At some point, we have got to rein in our fiscal sanity here.
Well, I don't know. The president of France has been pretty brave of late with some of his answers. That's very true. Okay, Gary B.
I think Tracy summed it up. The whole word for this segment, not the quality of the segment, but the spending. And she said is pathetic. It's pathetic that people are on this panel saying, well, that's as good as it gets. It's not that bad. I'm sure that's what Greece said a few years ago.
Right.
That's how things are done. We needed to get it done. So what? We'll just keep borrowing. My gosh, in just a few years from now, we won't even be able to pay the interest on what we owe out there. Not to mention the fact that it's not quite stealing from the American public, but the money they take in is spent on silly things that don't work, like the Obamacare website, for crying out loud. And everyone's willing to say, well, that's just how things are done. That really is pathetic.
Well, Sasha, that's kind of what you're saying. We're kind of congratulating ourselves that we actually get a spending bill through.
That is pretty unfortunate that is the state that we've gotten to these days. And absolutely, the problem is people can say as much as they want that they want compromise, which is what this took. But at the end of the day, people who vote in primaries don't want compromise. They want the absolute opposite. So, you can't throw all the bums out unless you have people vote differently.
Well, Tracy, is all this spending, though, holding back the economy?
Oh, my God, because, well, for one, it's not being used on anything important. I love salmon as much as the next guy, but do we need to keep studying it like this? And you want to talk about borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. That is exactly what we consistently do. And then they got to go and raise taxes because they have no money left. It just makes no sense. And I use the word asinine, Gar. Asinine. That's what this is.
You can respond, Gary B. Gary B., you can respond.
Oh, I don't know whether it's asinine or pathetic. I'm going to go with Tracy on both these. Just the fact that we're spending so much money that we don't have. That's and Sasha's right. We should vote all the bums out, start from scratch, and elect all libertarians, in my opinion.
There we go.
We're spending $400 billion less money than we didn't have than a few years ago. That's a huge improvement. We used to have a $1.5 trillion discretionary budget that was going to garbage. That was our Greece budget, and now that's gone, so we're back to just the old American budget, which is a normal deficit of a few $100 billion. I think we can work through that. It's not that bad anymore.
Okay, you guys can take him on in the next segment. All right, if that debate didn't get you fueled up, how about a push to hike the federal gas tax?
That's what we've always done in America.
All right. Well, we also account for the monies we spend in America, but we'll see, Secretary.
It's being accounted for, Neil.
I wish you were right. We'll see. Secretary, thank you.
Well, I am right.
Okay, fine.
All right, Neil's gang looking into where the $120 billion we shell out every year to fix roads is actually going. That's at the bottom of the hour.